Welcome to this presentation on First Amendment rights in the library, understanding the right to privacy and challenges to library materials. The objective of this presentation is to help you as an educator understand how rights to privacy apply and as challenges to materials as well to our students, and how you can help them become more informed and understand the applications of these two issues. So first, the right to privacy. The right to privacy is defined by the American Library Association as the right to open inquiry without having the subject of one's interest examined or scrutinized by others. So in other words, students have the right to check out books and search for topics of interest in the library, and this information must be kept confidential by library employees. Students who use the library need to feel safe to inquire and search for information. Students' rights to privacy is guaranteed by the First Amendment. The library follows several policies to protect privacy of patrons. These policies are described by a website called I Love Libraries from the American Library Association as follows. Limit the degree to which personally identifiable information is monitored, collected, disclosed, and distributed. Avoid creating unnecessary records. Only a record of users' personally identifiable information when necessary for the efficient operation of the library. Avoid retaining records that are not needed for efficient operation of the library. So you don't want to keep anything that is not necessary. So the library is following these policies to help ensure that students' rights are being followed as far as privacy goes. And the library has only certain situations where it can disclose this information. So if there's an open investigation as a matter of public safety, if a detective or a law enforcement officer were to come in the library and ask for someone's records, it usually is only going to happen if they have a warrant or an order from a judge to get those records. A librarian can also disclose patron activity to a counselor or administrator if the librarian believes the student is in imminent danger of harming himself or others. So that's a case where that student's First Amendment rights, if they are going to harm themselves, it gets a little bit more in the gray area. Consequences of violating right to privacy. If a student's rights to privacy are violated in a school library, there can be some consequences. And this is really more for the school and kind of an unfortunate thing that would happen. Students may no longer feel safe checking out books of interest. Students do not want to visit the library at all. Students may face ridicule or punishment if their circulation records are shared. Students' personal information could fall into the hands of someone who wants to do them harm. So just as important as not sharing students' information like their address and that kind of thing is also we don't want to share their circulation, the books that they've checked out in the past, because if they are interested in a certain area but don't want other people to know about it, then if we break that trust, they may not feel safe coming to our library anymore to look for their topic of interest, and that's violating their First Amendment rights as well. Here are some scenarios about rights to privacy, and we'll look at each one and see if the student in that scenario, if their right was violated. A teacher wants to see what one of her students has been reading and asks the librarian to print a list of the student's circulation history. The librarian agrees with this request. So this would be a violation of the student's privacy. The librarian should not disclose a student's circulation history, even if a teacher has good intentions about wanting to see that, to maybe track like their reading or kind of the books they have been reading. It's a violation of that student's rights. So that's something that we need to avoid. A principal is worried about a student's behavior and asks the librarian for a copy of the student's circulation records. The librarian agrees with their request. And again, it's going to be a violation of that student's rights. The only time a librarian should disclose information about behavior is like an open investigation with a law enforcement agency, unless the librarian, through their unique perspective and observation, are able to determine that they think the student is in imminent danger of harming himself or others, or herself or others. So even though the principal may have cause to believe that the student had been using library materials to do something, it's really kind of another tricky area as far as violating their rights. So most likely that would be a violation. Scenario 3, a student really wants to check out a book, but is worried what his peers will think of him. He notices that several students are helping to check out books. After deciding to check out the book, one of the student library aides tells her friends what he checked out. Her friends tease him for his choice. And this is kind of a sad situation. It would be a violation of his privacy. Having student aides check out books is helpful, but if someone is kind of leery of checking out a book because they're worried about getting teased or something, then having to do that in front of peers might be embarrassing for them, especially if later on they got kind of teased for that. So that might make that student feel unsafe or not willing to use library materials anymore because of what happened in that situation. Scenario 4, a student is looking for a book and is self-conscious about her reading level. The books in the library are labeled with stickers to help students find the appropriate reading level. Her peers are able to see that she is on a lower level than most students in the class due to the sticker on the book. So in the library, sometimes you can find, in different libraries, you can find labels that tell you exactly what reading level, either through AR points or another way, each book is. And so doing that would be a way to violate students' privacy. If they are instructed by their teacher to get their reading level and they're much lower than the rest of the class or even much higher than the rest of the class, other people can see what they're getting, see what their reading level is based on that sticker, and they may face additional ridicule or scrutiny or embarrassment because of that. So that would be a violation of their privacy. Scenario 5, a librarian wants help in getting overdue books returned. He hands each teacher a list of overdue books checked out by students in their homeroom class, including the titles and dates they were checked out. This would again be a violation of privacy. The teacher shouldn't really ever have a list of a student's circulation history, including the titles of the books, because that's really but the student's privacy by the First Amendment. Moving on, how can I protect my right to privacy? So students, when they viewed this presentation, were wanting to know how they could help in protecting their privacy rights through the library. So if they witness or experience a violation of privacy in the library, speak to the librarian about their concerns. And that applies to teachers as well. If teachers feel like there is a violation of privacy going on, to speak to the librarian. And remember to approach the situation calmly and with a perspective of wanting to keep the library safe and student information confidential. If the librarian is not open to their concerns, try speaking with the principal, and for the student, maybe with their parent, to voice their concerns. So a challenge to library materials is when someone attempts to move or restrict materials based on the objections of a person or group. Challenges do not simply involve a person expressing a point of view, rather they are an attempt to remove material from the curriculum or library, thereby restricting the access of others. So say that somebody read a book and there was profanity in that book and that was against their values. So instead of just objecting or complaining to the librarian about that, they are intent on getting that book removed from the library so that nobody has access to it. And this is a problem because it is a violation of First Amendment rights. The library has to consider that there's people from different perspectives, backgrounds, points of view, and to meet the needs of all different types of users, we have to have collections that are diverse. And so you're going to have things that may not be in line with every single person's values. When someone challenges library materials, they enter a process called reconsideration. The book must be reviewed by a committee who will decide whether or not to remove the book from the library. The banning of books is part of censorship, the practice of one person or a group of people imposing their morals or values on the others by evaluation of materials such as books and removing those that they find offensive. Censorship of materials affects the First Amendment rights of library users, so we don't want to restrict access to any materials based on one person's opinion or viewpoint. That's a violation of the First Amendment. The library is committed to keeping censorship out of the library as much as possible. So why would someone challenge library materials? If a parent or teacher reads a book and finds something in the book offensive, they may not want their student to read the book. They may believe that removing the book from the library is the best solution to this problem. It's important to consider that not all people have the same experiences, perspectives, and values. What is offensive to one person may not be offensive to another. So removing the book is not necessarily the best solution. We like to encourage parents to have those conversations with their kids and talk to them about what they don't want them to check out from the library, rather than deciding that the book should be removed from the library altogether. So if the process is successful, if they are able to get the book removed, there are consequences for the library program. The challenge book could be permanently removed from the library. Other students' First Amendment rights are violated, and the library collection may no longer show a balanced view of varied perspectives on important issues. Here are some scenarios, 6 real-life challenges to materials that occurred, and students went through these challenges and decided if they thought that the book deserved to be banned based on the complaint about the book. So in 2008, the book Black Hawk Down, A Story of Modern War by Mark Bowden was challenged at a high school in Louisiana for profanity. In 2008, the book The Fighting Ground by Avey was challenged in a Florida school for containing profanity. In 2007, the book Cuba by Sharon Gordon was challenged in Florida school for cultural inaccuracies. Parents were concerned that this book did not accurately depict life in Cuba. The next one, in 2007, the book The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman was challenged in Colorado for anti-religious views. Challenge 5, in 2009, the book Help the Forest by Rita Crosby was challenged in Oregon for containing an inaccurate description of life as a logger. And in 2007, the entire Harry Potter book series by J.K. Rowling were challenged in Massachusetts due to concerns over the themes of witchcraft and sorcery. So the above book challenges were found on the ALA website. They have a map that you can click on different book challenges that have occurred in the United States and read about them. So the answers to these, the first challenge, this book was removed from the school. The second one, the book was successfully defended by the review committee and the superintendent. And the third challenge, the book was removed from the school. The fourth challenge, the book was removed from the library shelves but later returned. The fifth challenge, the book was removed and revised editions were later returned to the shelves. And in the sixth challenge, the books were removed from the school library, and those were the Harry Potter books. So in a lot of these, the books were removed, and only one was a challenge successfully defended the first time. So at some point in the rest of these challenges, some students didn't have access to these materials, and their First Amendment rights were infringed on by these book challenges. So for students, what is their role in challenges to materials? So if students come across something in a book that bothers them, they are encouraged to return the book. They may also report it to the librarian, but remember, they do not have to read something that offends them. So we kind of try to encourage them, if you find something you don't like, you're not forced to read it. The library has plenty of other choices, and to encourage them to remember that there are people who have different perspectives than them, and they are going to read different things and have different ideas about the materials and the things they're finding in the book. These are the references for this presentation, and at the end of this presentation you will receive a handout that has additional professional resources for you, and also resources for your students to help you teach about challenges to materials and student privacy in the classroom. Thank you for joining us today.